Okay, John, thank you very much for this interview. First of all, I would like to know what kind of show you're going to play tonight. So are you going to play music from your different periods of your career with an emphasis on the last LPs?
Yeah, we're going to play various periods, but mainly I think from things from Metamatic and a few from Systems of Romance as well, which was the earlier album, and the Maths, of course, from Interplay, and the other records, Shape of Things and so on after that. So that's it, yeah.
Also some songs from your solo period, I mean the one with Harold Budd and Louis Gordon?
No, none of that.
None of it.
No, Harold's material is piano and instrumental, so it doesn't work with what we're doing now, which is electronic and analog synthesizers and so on. So that's what we just decided, because Ben's so interested in analog synthesizers, we decided that's what we would use, and those are the sounds we're going to use. So what we can't use, we've sampled, but sampled directly from the tape, from the original tapes, and then we play the rest, the melodies and all the other parts with that.
Yeah, I saw an interview of Howard Jones who said he had the same kind of problem. He had to resample all the tapes from the 80s and to be able to play them live.
Yeah, because the sounds are very specific, very analog, and they were made in that way by that kind of technology, so it's important that we use the same technology to reproduce it, I think, really. This is Ben.
Yes, this is Mr. Analog.
Yeah.
All about synthesizers.
The synth king, the synth wizard.
Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you.
Hi.
I was just going to ask about the band and maybe introduce a little bit each person of the band.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's Benge, who is. Well, he'd better describe himself.
Well, yeah, I'm a kind of synthesizer enthusiast, I think is the best.
And expert as well.
So yeah, and I've kind of I've been interested in these things since the early 90s, when people were throwing these old pieces of equipment away, and collecting stuff and putting together my studio. And John, I met up with John 3 years ago now, I think, because he approached me about working on a project together, which obviously I was very excited to get involved with. So, and it grew from there, really.
Great. And you have the luxury to have two other artists, female artists, or Hannah Peel and Serafina Stier.
Exactly, yeah. Well, yes, both excellent musicians and good writers and composers and singers in their own area. Very distinctive personalities and people. And it's great to have them playing with us. Serafina is the only person I know who can play a complex lead line and a bass line at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
And do backing vocals.
And sing as well. It's incredible.
Multitasking person.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful to look at and beautiful to listen to as well. It's great. So, and they both are excellent, aren't they, to work with? It's the best band I've worked with ever.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah, and I remember an interview when you said that being in a band is rather childish.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this new situation? Now you change your mind.
Yeah. Well, no, I still think, I think those old bands where it was a gang of guys.
Rock and roll bands.
Yeah,
It's not like that.
Here it's more a cooperation between...
Yeah, because everyone goes off.
Everyone,
I mean, we find it hard to tour because, for instance, Hannah is doing an album with a choir from Orkney, which is in Scotland, a small island, and it's a 36-piece choir. So, and she's going to tour with that because she's made an album. She's written the music for that. She's writing music for the theatre in the West End of London, and other projects as well. So that will take most of this year. Serafina's recording with Jarvis Cocker at the moment.
Oh yeah.
A new album. Benge has been recording with Tara Bush, who's going to be part of the Maths, and several other projects as well. So, and I've got things to do too. You know, I've got another album of piano music to do. And so
Must be a nightmare for agendas.
So yes, it's like knitting fog to get all these people together in one room, and it's very difficult. So you can appreciate it's not like old bands used to be. This is a band where everybody's got their own complete career, and it's all very fast moving. So we have to schedule things very carefully.
But it's kind of, the studio is a bit like the sort of central hub where we all met really, and I've been working with Hannah on an album. I mixed her last album, and I co-produced Serafina's previous album, so we've kind of all met through the studio and working together, and they've got an interest in synthesizers and keyboards as well, so you know, it kind of does attract these kind of like-minded people. And we all met there really. Yeah,
it's very much, it is based around that studio, because Ben just made this studio that is really interesting, and people get involved with it, and it's got its own social circle, if you like, that is where everyone comes from. And there are other musicians as well. There's Jean Gar, isn't there?
Yeah, Jean Gar was in... a friend and a musician that we work with, Jean Gabriel. And
French musician.
But he was in the original lineup when we played at the Roundhouse, and in London a few years ago, and he was playing in the band then. But it shifts around really.
Yeah, and Robin Simon occasionally, who is a guitarist from Ultravox.
So, and Liam as well, the drummer.
And Liam, the drummer, who's now working with
Nana Cherry.
And for you, isn't it frustrating to only play the drums and no synths on stage?
I do play a bit of synth. I've got I've got a Korg monotribe on there, which I use for one song, and another little Korg that I use on a different one. But I'm also operating the kind of computer and that side of it as well. So I've kind of got my hands full a bit. I'm not quite as multitasking as the other girls. I do my bit.
It's the saying that only women can be multitasking.
I think so. Well, in my case, that's absolutely certain.
Walking and breathing.
Yeah, you sing and then you play your vocoder at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to do
that's enough.
Things
That's enough.
It's already a lot. Let's go back a little bit in time, in the 70s. What would you say your influences were in the beginning? I heard about Roxy Music, Kraftwerk, David Bowie. Do you have other influences?
Oh yeah, ones that are more prominent than that were Neue.
Neue,
was particularly
German.
And that whole German scene was really important.
All the Krautrock.
Yeah, I never call it that because it seems the wrong term for me, but it's just German music, adventurous German music from the 60s onwards, you know. And that was influenced a lot by British psychedelia from the late 60s. And I felt the spirit of that move to Germany.
Oh yeah. So I know this song.
There's the door there. Shall I shut that door?
That was the Velvet Underground.
Oh yeah.
That New York scene around Andy Warhol, I really liked, the whole style of it, and also the music that the Velvets made. I really liked a lot. So Neue and the Velvets were the most important thing to me.
Keith Emerson?
No. No, I never liked that side of British music. I lost interest in it. I liked early Beatles, which was Tomorrow Never Knows.
I was going to say, especially George Harrison stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. And George Martin, who was the producer, I think he's one of my heroes. I think he's a genius. And he introduced the Beatles to all the really interesting sides of their music. It's attributed to them, but it was him. And he organised tape loops and random sound samples and all that kind of technology, reverse tapes.
It's like using the studio as an instrument, really. He really almost created that himself, and it was so important. And people don't really acknowledge that so much.
Yeah.
They see that as a later development, but they were doing some amazing things that they couldn't perform it live or anything. It was just
that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the studio was for the first time something distinct from live performance, and he enabled that. I think he realised it first before anyone else. And then I think the spirit of all that, in Britain we had prog rock after that, which didn't interest me. Progressive rock, as it was called, I thought was rubbish. And
waste of electricity.
It waste of electricity, as John Peel said. And I think the spirit of that moved to Germany and became invested in those German bands. At the beginning, Tangerine Dream and Kraftwerk and Can and Neue and all that generation of bands. Michael Rother's guitar playing. Michael Rother's guitar playing, who played with Neue and in La Dusseldorf afterwards. I think he's a genius. He's one of the best guitarists I've ever heard. But he played it not as a guitar. It was a kind of as a textural instrument. It was a new way of listening to guitar. It was fascinating. So and they did punk music before punk existed even in America. It was very early. So there were a lot of things happening in Germany.
And Conny Plank, I guess.
Conny Plank was central, exactly. And he was the George Martin of Germany.
Yeah.
He recorded everybody. He did it from the ground up. He had first of all he had a stereo tape machine, and then he had 4 tracks, and then he built a studio, and everybody used it. Every band that was of any interest.
And you worked.
And we worked with him, and Eno did as well. So we were the first people in there. Brian was the first British person to work there, and we were the second British people to work there.
Brian
Eno.
Yeah.
So he was first, we were second, but we did it early on, and so all those influences were really important to us. And then of course I do think all the English bands after that got interested in that same kind of music. So you can even hear it now in the Horrors and Blur, and right back to Simple Minds and so on, and New Order and all that. It came from that meeting of German adventurous German music and British psychedelic adventurous
and
art rock.
Yes. What was, do you think, the first real full-fledged synth pop new wave song? I've tried to look in Wikipedia in the dates. I wonder whether it's not Hiroshima Mon Amour.
I think it is. I don't think anyone else had done a song like that before. No one else had used a drum machine. And based it. I mean, it was entirely based around that drum machine, that song. And I wrote it with we tried it as a rock song as well, but it was better with the drum machine. So that's the one we kept.
What year was that?
That was 77.
Recorded at 77.
Yeah. And then, but before that, there was My Sex. Which was that was recorded in 1976. In September.
On the other LP.
On the first
Ultravox.
And that was that's probably the earliest synthesizer, but it has a piano in it as well. But it's a synthesizer song. It was written with synthesizers.
Okay. And when you make the link with now, and you see all the evolution of music, of electronic music with techno and house, would you say that your music now is much more modern? It's not only nostalgia; it has really a modern aspect.
Yeah, I hope so, because I never want to. Nostalgia doesn't interest me at all. I'm not interested, because there's so much to do yet, and working with Ben's been great because it made me recover the fun and pleasure of working with those old instruments. But what we realised, and what Ben realised before I did actually very clearly, was that those instruments had never been fully explored, because they were replaced very quickly by digital instruments before anyone had really understood what they did. And the great thing about what Ben has done is recovered those instruments and recorded them through modern digital technology and modern speakers, so you can hear what they do for the first time.
Yeah.
And they've never been revealed before.
Yeah.
So there are so many aspects to those machines that have never been explored, and here's the opportunity to explore it. And everybody knows that instinctively. That's why a whole new generation of people has got interested in that, because they know instinctively that these are, you know, the equivalent to an Amazonian rainforest.
Yeah, yeah.
They've been overlooked and not properly explored, and now is the opportunity and time to do it. So there's a whole new territory there, I think, that's just opened out, oddly enough, maybe 50 years after it was first established.
Yeah.
It was,
They still, to my ears, they still sound modern and futuristic and powerful and exciting, even though some of it's, you know, probably 45 years old or something. But and also it's the way you put the sounds together with each other, or combine them with effects and with editing and, you know, drum loops and drum programming. It's yeah, that's the fun of it as well.
It's an infinite grid, isn't it, that you have with effects, echoes, analog sounds,
and it's actually
computers, and digital as well at the end, because everyone listens digitally, whether we like it or not.
MP3.
Yeah, but in between that, though, in the analog part of it, there is an infinite grid of sounds that you can make. It really is infinite, because every sound you make is affected in hundreds of ways all through the chain, even
So
with the
the
effects
studio-
and the tape and everything affects.
The way the studio is set up is kind of, it's got a lot of modular synthesizers, lots of effects and loads of different sound sources and treatments, and you can connect them all together and then recombine them together, so you end up with a sound that might sound completely different 5 minutes after you start working on it. And
You have patches, or
it's all patched together.
Change the patches.
Everything's all connected to a huge patch bay, and then you just mix things around
And you cross-trigger from drums into sequences.
or vocoders and things like that. So it's like the whole studio is one big instrument, really.
But would you say that your music has evolved and has been also influenced by other kinds of music in the meantime? I was thinking about EBM, for instance, you know, from 242 from Belgium, or...
Yeah, all those things. I mean, everything you listen to.
I was thinking about Shatterproof especially.
Yeah.
It has that sequence, that really raw sequenced heart
Makes
to
me
it.
think of Front 242 or DAF, you know.
Or La Düsseldorf. There's another one.
DAF were particularly interesting, I thought, because they did that kind of music first, I think, really, which was, they isolated that part of electronic music first. And I always liked what they did. And that became, you know, turned into techno and so on. It went across the Atlantic and changed other people's ideas of music as well. Yeah, everything you hear. I mean, what I'm listening to now is old blues.
Really?
Because
That's our next project.
It was, but I never want to play the blues because I'm not a black man from Texas, you know, or the Mississippi. But I love the organic feel of that kind of music. I always have. You know, the first music I really listened to was the blues. Listening to dub reggae in London, I went into Lee Perry sessions when he was working with Bob Marley, and listened to what was going on there. And that's a complete education in how to use a recording studio like an organic entity. It ceases to become anything mechanical, and it becomes electro-organic straight away. Because there must have been 30 people in that control room, everyone with a fader. And it was a dance. Everyone danced, and they threw echoes on. He was directing. You know, Perry would go like that for the echo to be thrown on one guy with a fader.
Performance on the mixer.
It was a whole dance. Yeah, it was a brilliant performance. It was very exciting. Everybody loved it. You know, it was really beautiful to watch.
It's not like probably at the you know, the BBC studios or you know, Abbey Road, where you're not allowed to touch the mixing desk unless you've got a lab coat on and white gloves. There it is, everyone was just allowed to get involved.
Yeah. Well, he insisted.
Yeah.
You know, he'd give you a job if you walked in the studio. You had a fader to move. You know, it's great.
What are the current artists that you're listening to, or that you would like to work with? I think you've worked with Ladytron, one of the two, Mira Arroyo. Are there other bands that you're interested in?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've just been doing a remix swap with a girl who goes under the name of Gazelle Twin in England, who's just released an album, really great electronic album with her singing on, and we swapped a remix with her. She did one of ours, and we've just finished one of hers. And there's a band from America, from New York, called Zeno and Oaklander, who are...
Yeah, did the remix as well.
Yeah, and they played at our show we did in London, so, and they're really great people to work with. So there's lots of like-minded people out there at the moment, which is really exciting.
Yeah, there's a whole movement in America, isn't there, too?
Yeah.
Electronic music seems to have...
Yeah, they seem to discover that it exists.
Yeah, it's a bit late, but...
Yeah, but it's fascinating what they've done. They've sort of, the younger artists like...
the one that you were discussing, and what's that weird... Skrillex.
Skrillex.
Oh yeah, Skrillex.
What he's done is, and what that generation seems to have done is listen to all the dance music that's happened since about 1987, and take the best bits or the bits they like best, and put it together into this new form that is almost like a caricature, a cartoon version of dance music. But it works, and it's really exciting and beautiful to listen to. And they're 19 years old, you know, so their whole life's been spent in that kind of environment, and they know what they're doing, and it's really interesting to see what a generation like that chooses. So I find that really exciting. And they have none of the prejudices of previous generations. There's no snobbishness. You know, we all develop these little snobberies about this is good, that's not so good, you know, I don't like this
They
one.
take everything.
They take the lot. They don't
I think
care.
Justice is also like this right now, you know, the French band.
Yeah.
And,
They just go in, they rape, pillage, steal, and adopt and make it their own. And that's what music should be like. I really enjoy it when that kind of... You need to be a pirate and a thief to really be effective as a musician, I think. And they've done it, so I'm proud of them.
everybody's copying everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. As Picasso said, the poor artist will adopt, and the good artist steals.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's very true. Yeah.
A lot of people must have stolen from you then.
I hope so. Yeah, and they're welcome to it, you know, because that's the game. That's the whole point. Is if it's not worth taking, if it's not worth stealing, you know, why bother?
But it doesn't make you bitter that they make money out of it.
No, it's great. Money's a byproduct anyway. Yeah. So the point is to make music.
I was thinking about David Sylvian, and I found some sort of resemblance between you and him in the way that you both were in a very legendary band, and then you achieve some sort of maturity and serenity in your solo work.
Yeah, maybe. I like what David's done. You know, I really respect it because I think he was great, and he was very courageous to walk away from that band at that time and re-establish himself completely in a different direction. So, got all the strength to him. It's great to see that. Yeah, maybe there is. I mean, we're from the same period, and I like his work, and I think he likes mine. And we've got some friends in common anyway, so, you know.
He's stuck to his guns and not compromised his art, really, which is what you've done. So it's quite rare for that to happen, I think.
Yeah, and there is something also in the approach of music that I find similar, you know, based on atmospheres and also a lot of philosophy also.
I guess so. I mean, if you think about music at all and sound and why you do it, and it seems like a very simple human activity, but actually it's incredibly complex. And we were just talking today when we were driving about what's a melody. You know,
it's hard. We had a long conversation about it.
Try to define a melody. What is it? You know, there are dozens of definitions, but none of them are very satisfactory. So it doesn't operate in words like that. But everyone knows what a melody is. But to ask them to put it into words or explain it, and you'll find doctors of philosophy who have a nervous breakdown trying to describe what a melody is. And it's one of the simplest human.
And then also the difference between a melody and a melody that works.
And one that's a good one, yes.
Why does it work?
Why is it good? Why is it bad?
Yeah.
What's the difference? You know?
Do you sometimes realize when you're composing that this is going to work?
You reach a point. It's a very visceral thing. It feels right, and the logic comes later. You can explain it later in words, because we're very good at justifying everything we do, aren't we? Even when it's bad.
I think the one thing that helps when we're writing or when someone's writing is you kind of know when it's not right. You might not know how to make it right, but you know that it needs to be done better still, so you keep going until it is right. And
you think about it, you know, and have a little dialogue with yourself, and get things right as well, you know, and edit it, throw things away that might have taken a long time. And often if you have the courage to do that, to throw stuff away, you can arrive at something good. But you can't be precious about music. You have to abandon things very quickly if they don't work. And you have to recognise that it's not working because of that thing that you spent 10 hours doing sometimes.
It must be difficult.
It is, yeah. You can't be possessive about it, you know. It's interesting.
What about the future? What are the projects now? A new album?
We have got a new album coming out on the 19th of March. I think
it's the CD of
the CD version of which is the official release date. And then an EP coming out in May. I think at the end of May.
I think so.
It's going to be June, early June. So that's an EP that's got some remixes on that hasn't been on the other remix album. And then we've been working with some people I mentioned earlier that will be coming out probably on that EP as well, remixes. And we're just always in the studio because we love being in the studio, so we just will be working away on new material, I guess.
Yeah, there's still lots of things we've started and haven't finished yet. So it just goes on. You know, we got together to do one album, and it was going to be experimental electronics, and it turned into
bleeps and
turned into quite something else. So, and it's nice because in a way the machines led that. You know, we thought we'd do something experimental, and with Ben, particularly with that Moog or Moog, as we're supposed to call it.
Yeah, is it Moog or Moog?
Yeah,
I call it a Moog.
I call it a Moog too, but
it's a Moog.
The Moog Foundation insists it's Moog. But when you get an arpeggio from that, it's so rhythmic and it has harmonic structures, and it immediately suggests a song to me. So I start singing, and that's an instinctive reaction. But what you're actually doing is following what the machine's giving you, and that's a very interesting process, you know. So we couldn't resist that, so we just worked with it, and it would have been foolish to resist it, and it would have been perverse to say, we're not going to do that, because there were so many possibilities there. But there's still the possibility of doing the abstract stuff. I mean, Ben's just done an abstract album.
Yeah, it doesn't have a single conventional melody or rhythm on it, but it's just still pure synthesizer music. But
what's the code?
It's called Abstraxa, which is a word that I made up. But
Abstractor.
Abstraxa with an XA at the end.
Oh yeah.
And it's it'll be a new solo album, but it's so different to what we're doing together. I'm doing it under my own Benge alias name. So.
But can we expect a new LP, a new CD in the style of Interplay in the future?
I'm sure.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure. Maybe.
We see where it takes. We see where it takes us. You know.
I mean, it might. It'll be a new album, but it won't. It
might
certainly
have a
won't be.
completely different basis.
Yeah,
you know?
it's true.
It's hard to know. You don't know till you start working. It's often what tends to happen is you go in the studio and then you begin work, and then you get one thing that works really well, and that provides the the blueprint
Yeah.
for the album. You just know that that's the thing you should follow, and you don't really know what it is until you get to that point. You as we did before, you can go in with one intention and come out with something totally different.
It's good to have some kind of, general rules that you set at the beginning. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do originally was just say, well, there's going to be no plugins or kind of computer editing on the record. So that was one limitation we set.
Yeah.
It's not really a limitation because there's so much choice still out there. But it's nothing to say we won't do an album that's just done with a computer plugin. That's the sort of thing we might do.
Yeah.
So
At the moment we're post-digital. But we could go back to pre-digital or pre-analog even at some point.
yeah, it's going to be a blues album just with one.
Yeah.
No, never a blues album. I'll never do a blues album. Never. But yeah, there are a lot of possibilities, and we don't know till we start to explore them what could happen. And if we have time as well, because there's so many projects to finish. I mean, there must be a year's worth of projects that need to be finished.
Probably.
I should think.
We need longer days.
And only talking about music, then you have also other activities, I think.
Yeah, the visual things and films and so on. Yeah, they all work together. And writing things, they all go on, but they're all interconnected, so they feed each other.
Is there a cross-fertilization between?
Yeah, you get ideas and things that work in one form.
Go in there because it's a soundtrack. So
Okay.
Is that okay? Thank you.
I think we're nearly finished right now.
Okay.
All right.
I don't want to bother you more than we said 30 minutes, so it's
Yeah, that's
perfect.
fine. We finished.
Sorry.